Hello, and welcome to the last day of our salon. Today we're making a bag, guys. We are finishing the backpack. We're putting together all these pieces and creating another piece of art. So let's start with the main fabric and then we'll work on the lining. I'm gonna start by pinning these straps like this so they're not in the way. Because last thing I want to do is stitch through these straps. Alright, so let's take the front first and mark the center. If you have it marked from the when you drew the center on the foam, that helps too. And then let's mark the center of the shorter end. So we're gonna be working to the front. We're gonna attach the shorter strap to the front of our panel. All right, then we're gonna match those, pin in place, and then I like to go to the end and pin in place both ends. And then pin around. And this is something you'll be sewing with a 1/2 inch seam allowance. But do pin because you have curves and a lot of foam, so you want to hold this in place. Plus layers of elastic and whatnot. There's a lot of stuff going on here. So you do want to pin it in place. Everything is gonna match, is 1:1 ratio. Just needs a lot of pins. So we're gonna be basically repeating this step 4 times. 2 times for the main fabric, 2 times for the lining. Alright, let's go sew. I switched back to my regular foot and with a 1/2 inch seam allowance. I find it easier to sew if I have the side panel on the bottom. Go slow. You have a lot of layers of fabric here, so take your time with these steps. They're not hard, but just take your time. Help your machine help you. Make sure the edges still match. So now take your scissors and remove a 1/4 inch of the seam allowance. Because the seam allowance is 1/2 inch, you want to make sure that you don't get so much bulk. So I highly encourage you to not skip this step and just remove a 1/4 inch. I use black thread so you can see my stitches pretty well on the white foam. Alright, so now take the back of the panel. First I'm going to mark my center here. I like to fold it in half and make sure that everything matches here. So this is my center back. And I'm going to take, it's easier on the flat, so I'm going to move you again. Sorry guys. Alright. So this is my center back. And now I have to have my center of the panel here. Alright, make sure everything is away, like the strap, the hooks are away, and just match the center with this. And pin just like we did before. Start, and you'll have even more layers now because you have the strap. So once again, you have to go very slow. I've seen some suggestions if your machine doesn't like all this bulk here because of the foam, to do a zigzag stitch along the 1/2 inch seam allowance. This way it will press the foam. You can try it. I've never tried it, but I've seen it recommended either in this group or a different bag group, I don't remember. But sewing like a zigzag stitch along the foam to press it down a little bit, if your machine actually doesn't like sewing through all of this. But I think if you go slow and you give it time, it will work. Foam is thick, but it's not hard. It's not like I think it would be a lot harder to sew through many layers of denim than it would be to sew through a thick layer of foam. Because foam is a lot of air, whereas denim and leather is pretty hard. Alright, so I'm pinning around. And then I'm gonna go ahead and sew with a 1/2 inch seam allowance, just like we did before. And then cut the seam allowance in half afterwards. All right. Let's see. Let's do this. Again, I like to sew with the panel down. I find it's easier to have my panel touching the machine, my side panel, I mean. So it works. You just have to be gentle and give it time. And help it a little bit. If you feel like she needs your help, and by she I mean your machine. Make sure you keep your 1/2 inch seam allowance constant, because it's also a lot of math involved in this. So if you deviate from this, then your bottom will not fit perfectly. So keep your 1/2 inch seam allowance. have to make sure the rivets are not in the way. Alright, so the last thing that we need to attach to the bottom, I'm going to try to do it here, is the bottom of the bag. So make sure you open your zippers because you want to be able to turn it inside out. So have your zipper open at the top. And now for the bottom, mark the center of the side on both sides. Then mark the center of the front and the back. And repeat the same process for the bottom piece, which in my case is the purple vinyl. Alright, so I have my quarters marked on the bag, and then I want to mark my quarters on the vinyl. And I'm using the same technique. I'm folding it and putting a clip. And then same thing here. Fold, clip. Alright, so I have my markings now. And now with the right sides together, place your bottom like this. So my bag is with the top down. So it's like this. And I'm placing it on top and making sure that I match my quarters that I did before. And pin in place. And then we're going to put a couple of pins around it. And I have a feeling I forgot to cut my seam allowance, so I'm gonna do that quickly right now. Did I? Yes, I did. I didn't cut my seam allowance. And I know I won't like it if I don't, so let me do that real quick here. There's a lot of bulk if I don't cut it. Especially at the curve, it will make a huge difference cutting the excess of the seam allowance. Make sure, of course, you don't cut your stitches. Alright, so let me finish up pinning here at the bottom. See, everything, because I kept my seam allowance correctly, everything matches perfectly here. Minimal fiddling needed. Alright, so now you can go ahead and sew again with a 1/2 inch seam allowance around the bottom of the bag, like so. And I think, I don't remember how I like it. Yeah, I think I like it with the, again with the panel down. Slow, especially at the curve, at the corners. It's gonna be harder on the main part. It's gonna be a lot easier when you do the same process for the lining, because the layers are much, much thinner. See, it ran a little bit away from me. So I'm gonna go back to my half-inch seam allowance. It tried to run away. I know if you are blessed enough to have an industrial sewing machine, I'm sure you're not fighting with it as much as I am right now. But it's basically because I have a lot of machine and little space on that side. Alrighty, we did it. We did a full circle. Alright, so this is our main bag. Everything is sewn together. I'm gonna turn it inside out and check that all my seams are good and secure, especially there on the bottom. And it looks good. Make sure you push your seams away. Everything looks beautiful. Alright, so I'm gonna go ahead and repeat the same steps. See, the backpack is almost done. I can remove my clips now. We just need to put the drop-in lining inside, because right now it's just foam. So I'm gonna go ahead and repeat the same steps I did to attach the front, the side panels, the back and the bottom for the lining, exactly in the same order as I did it before. And then we're gonna put the drop-in lining. So I'll meet you back here in a bit to add the drop-in lining. Okie dokie, so we have the main part of the backpack sewn together, and then we have the lining sewn together. Remember, the lining is sewn together with 5/8 of an inch seam allowance instead of a 1/2 inch. So a little bit bigger the seam allowance just to fit better inside. So now I have my lining with the wrong side of the lining up, and then my backpack with the right side up. So I'm gonna drop, hence the name drop in, my lining on the inside. Make sure that the back matches the back of the backpack. And I also put my zipper on the back. This is it's a personal preference that I like my zipper on the back, on the inside pocket, but you could have very well do it on the front of the pocket. That's not a big deal. Alright, so let me place my lining nicely here. And I'm gonna go ahead and pin along the zipper edge. See where the zipper has been stitched? I'm gonna pin around there because we're gonna top stitch it along. This is where my big quilter clips come in handy. You can also use pins, obviously. I don't know how well you can see. I'm working on the inside now. This is probably the hardest part of the backpack. Making sure that you place the drop-in lining nicely inside. And then I'm gonna pin it around and then top stitch it. So we're only gonna be top stitching where the zippers are. Along the two curves, the top and the bottom curve. I find drop-in lining to be more tedious than regular ones. They just take a little practice and a little patience. So another reason why I gave everybody an extra day. In case you get frustrated that it's not lining and you need to move it a little bit and replace it and whatnot, you can give yourself a little break. I'm using my feel more than my eyes here. I should probably go get my medium clips. Because the big ones are a little too big. I think the medium might work better. So I'm gonna do the same thing on the other side. Make sure everything is nice and flat. Drop in the lining. Nice and flat. I'm so in love with this fabric. The round opens today, guys. Guys and gals. And folks and people. All right. Come on, my little lining. That's what I'm saying, you need patience today. That's the name of the game. Let's see. Alright, so make sure there's no folds or bubbles or excess fabric. Since you're working on a curve, if you have it, just repin it and then go ahead and stitch it. I think I'm good with all the pins. Let me double check before I take it to my machine. Everything is nice and flat. Let's see, it's not. Here it's a little too high. So I think I'm gonna just repin it, stitch it in place once I'm happy with how it's pinned, And then we're gonna do the last step, which is to add the straps. Alright, so I took all the pins off because I wasn't happy with the way it was looking, so I did it again, and I found a way to make me happy. I'm just gonna mark the center, so I'm taking my lining and mark the center here with a pin, and then I'm gonna mark the center of the front and then pin down. Yeah. And that's when I was finally happy with the way it looked. So this is the center of my front, this is the center of my lining. I'm gonna match them, and then everything else will go around these. And that's how I was happy with the inside there. Alright, so let me pin this, and then we'll sew it and move on to the straps. I told you this is the hardest part. It's not impossible, it's just takes a little patience that some of us may not have. And by that I mean me. Now I'm happy. Now I'm happy with how it looks inside and outside, so I'm just going to go ahead and stitch. Along the zipper. As close as I can get it to the zipper, and we'll call it a day. It's easier without this one. Put my zipper foot just in case. Give me as much space as possible. Oh, if I find my zipper foot. I guess I worked with the zipper before, zipper foot, and I didn't put it in the right spot, so I'm gonna use my Teflon foot because it has an 1/8 of an inch seam mark, so it's gonna help me until I find my zipper foot. I don't necessarily need the Teflon part of it, but I do like the markings that I have on it. Alright, so I'm gonna get as close as I can to the zipper. And sew a line, making sure that I catch the zipper tape and the lining inside. All right, my lovelies, we are almost there. All right, I went as close as I could to the zipper, so I'm gonna call myself happy with that. Oh, looks pretty good. I caught the zipper, I got the lining. It looks pretty good. Awesome. So let's do the same thing on the other side. Again, I'm going as close as I can to the back. Make sure you catch the zipper tape and the lining. I went as close as I could. You've made it, my friends. We have done it. Perfect. Beautiful. The front is done too. So all we have left to do now is add the webbing straps. So grab your webbing strap and let's start with the top. Your raw edges should be sealed. Fold it about 1.5 inches at the top, like so, and just stitch it in place. I like to do a rectangle stitch. I find like it's about 1/2 inch high. It holds better than just one straight stitch. You can also do like an X inside. And repeat the same step for the other strap. Take your strap, fold it about 1.5 inches. Just trying to make sure the fold is the same with both of mine. All right, and just stitch it down. Alright, so now we're gonna add the glider, which is gonna complete the sew along. So I have my 2 gliders, 1 inch sliders, not gliders. My rainbow sliders. Alright, so take one end of the strap, make sure the edge is sealed, and run it through the slider like so with the hold on, because it was upside down. Okay, so that's my slider. I'm gonna put my strap through it on one side and get it down on the other side. All right, now go ahead and I'm working with the left side, okay? Make sure it's not twisted. Place this through your loop on the bottom of the bag, and then go ahead and place it one more time through the slider and get it out on the other side, and this is what you'll be sewing in place. Make sure it goes out on the other side. So now you have it looped 2 times through the slider. Make sure you guys can see. So it's 1 time and then 2 times. And the second one we're gonna stitch in place. Just those 2 layers. Take any other layers away, make sure you don't stitch them together. Just the 2 layers. And I like to do the same little rectangle. And I'm gonna show you this because it can be a confusing step. It took me a little bit to memorize it, so I'm gonna show this to you guys again on the other side. Alright, so now it's stitched in place and it slides so you can change the length. Alright, so let's repeat the same step on the other side. I have my strap like this and my end. Take your slider and run your strap through one side. Go down on the other side of the slider. All right, take this part and run it through the rectangle that's attached to your backpack and pull it up, okay? And now take this part that you just pulled up and run it again through the slider, up on the inside and down on the other side. So now you have 2 loops in the slider. Go ahead and stitch these 2 together. Top stitch, and this is it. Great job, everyone. Big applause. You guys did it. It was a long week. Good. The strap is ready. The glider works, so you can adjust the length. The back of the backpack is done. The front is done. The lining is in. You are all done. So make sure you snap a picture of your finished backpack and post it in the day 5 comments of the Sew Along album, and we'll pick a winner tomorrow night for a gift card to Backstitch and patterns from Diddlebug. Thank you again, Erin, for creating this for us, and I hope you all enjoyed the sew along as much as I did, and I can't wait to see your finished backpacks. Great job, everyone. Bye.